Angel Jones.
Welcome to Happy Hour. My name is Angel Jones, and on Happy Hour, we want to talk about real stories, real people, open, unfiltered, candid, straight from the heart. And for my first episode, I'm going to take it a little personal and tell you stories from home. I gave birth to my son in 1995. As a single parent, I've gone through being a pop star, being married, divorced, broke, struggling. He's been through it with me, and now he's making it big. And there's no other person to talk to about this. You know him as Tony, but he's always going to be my little Anthony. This is my son, Tony.
Hey! The Last Supper. So how do you feel? Excited?
I feel good. I'm excited.
I'm also excited because I didn't read the script, so it's gonna be
Well, that's the whole point. It's spontaneous.
Yeah, I
There's
like
no
that.
script. There's no script.
How do you feel about wearing Gucci?
You know what? My stylist hooked me up. I love it. I'm looking good. I love it. It's just so crazy how where we've come from to where we are. You know how one of the misconceptions is people think we're rich?
Yeah, because we look rich.
Because we marunong lang magdala, right?
Yeah.
We just know how to carry clothes, but it's crazy how people don't know where we came from.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I wanted to do this episode, because I think single parents are so, I guess, frowned upon.
I think they're starting to get really praised now, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you hear of like a single parent, there's so much honor to that now. You know what I mean? As
Yeah.
opposed to before.
Mm-hmm.
Before it meant if you're a single parent, there was something wrong with you. That's why
Yeah.
someone left you. But now everybody knows that there's just nobody faithful or decent anymore. So if you're a single parent, it's kind of just like you go. Like you're still surviving.
But back then, I mean, let's just rewind. You know, when I was 16 and I was pregnant with you, I looked like I was 12. It was like the scariest thing ever. Imagine seeing a 12-year-old. That was me. I looked like a child. And I didn't know what to do. And I always tell everyone, like, because you're my firstborn, you were my experiments. Because I don't know.
I was the guinea pig.
You were the guinea pig. And back in the days, it was very frowned upon. But looking back, what was it like, I don't know, growing up with me? Don't be filtered. I won't be offended. Okay. What was it like? Come on.
I have to say, it was really colorful. I feel like we had so many ups and downs. You definitely did a good job of not making me feel like we were poor. I remember getting cool toys, like from my biological dad, but I remember I never felt like, oh, my mom can't provide that for me. You know what I mean? That's not something that's part of my memory. I remember having like the best time in the whole wide world when we lived in BF homes up in that hill.
We were so poor in BF.
I know, and
I couldn't even afford water.
which is crazy because like I remember it would be you, me at the Ashley, but I just remember having like the bestest time. I remember that little tricycle that we would take, and we had to remember that it was like kaliwa, 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 and then up that hill. Even then, I remember that being fun.
Okay.
From my memories, I don't remember complaining about that.
That's crazy, because as a mom, I felt insecure about that. I felt insecure that I couldn't afford water, and I couldn't give you the toys, and that I left you to go work.
It really did keep me in this little fantasy bubble that everything was fine, you know? And I think whether or not things were okay, I felt okay.
But was there any perks to having a single
Yeah,
mom?
but it's funny because even with that, you always kind of felt like a single parent. You know what I mean? Because you and Dad
He would do his own thing.
You and Dad had very different ideas of what it was like to be a parent. So
that's true.
You know, that's why a lot of times it was either like, okay, if one person's mad, like side with Dad, or if you know that this parent would agree with this, can you side with Mom, right?
It's like you chose sides. You had to always choose sides.
I think there was definitely perks. I think now, like, I realize like how street smart I am. I know now I can afford to wear designer, but like, damn, I still have like my own discarte, you know, when I'm out there. And so I have that confidence in me. It's such a perk, like the way that you guys raised us. We have a sense of like toughness. It kind of teaches us to value other things more importantly, which I really appreciate. It's actually helped me keep my feet on the ground. Honestly, for the most part, I think if I was so spoiled, I really wouldn't have a concept of gratitude. I definitely stand by my word when I say that I had like really hip parents, and you guys were like hip hop heads, you know. I forget that my parents were superstars at one point. Honestly, there's nothing I would change, to be honest, because I can't risk not having this mindset now.
Was there anything that you feel like you couldn't talk to me about?
I ran my mouth as a kid, honestly. I was the brat. I was the palaban kid, you know what I mean? That wanted to get in trouble, wanted to prove you guys wrong, wanted to push the buttons. So no. And even if I felt like you guys didn't want to talk about it, I would still run my mouth.
I know that leaving Dad was, it rocked the boat. It really rocked the boat in our family, and I regret it, but it was the best thing that I did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I want to know, how did it affect you?
Because we were raised the way we were with you and Dad. You know, you guys were very spontaneous people. You guys, for the most part, were super open-minded. By the time you and Dad were like on the brinks of your relationship, at that point, I think me and the kids were kind of ready for you guys to separate. Actually, I'll be honest with my feelings. I was excited for you guys to split up because I knew that being together was just causing so much damage to the family and just wasn't doing any good anymore, that like for me it was like, please just split up, this might be our only hope. And when you guys split up, it honestly was like a catharsis, you know. Like finally, I would remember times where like when we were in the Philippines and things were rough, like waking up in the morning to hearing screaming and thinking I was still dreaming, and then waking up a little bit more and realizing that my parents were really fighting again. You know, and I remember not feeling upset. You know what I mean? And
it's like
that's
normal.
Not just that it was normal, but like it just didn't affect me. You know what I mean? I didn't feel bad that my parents were arguing. So when you guys split up, I was actually really happy for you guys. I thought that you guys both deserved like a new shot at love, a new shot at life, a new shot at finding yourselves. You know, I knew that that was something that you really needed. You know, I knew that you really needed to find yourself as well. Like, I understood why. I just saw two parents who were so unhappy. And after like 12 years of being together, like, you know, I knew that it was already affecting the family. So I wanted to give you guys that chance, you know what I mean? Like I said a while ago, like, I wanted you guys to find another shot at love, find another shot at yourself. That sacrifice ended up paying in the long run because you were thinking ahead.
I totally get it, because my mom, she was a single mom too. I feel like our family has patterns, or everyone does. My mom was a single mom. I met my dad like 3 times. And and what's crazy is, you know, she was abusive, and I know she didn't know any better. She was abusive, and I know that I handed that down too, and I had to learn how to stop that. But she was abusive, and the way to people's hearts were money, and she didn't have time for me, and I know that I had to fend for myself a lot. Like, we were so broke at one time that I used to have to steal donuts just so that I can eat for the day. And I love those experiences.
I definitely got that from you, because I stole all my food in high school. I stole from 7-Eleven all the time, every day actually.
That's really sad. But hey, it made you a hustler. You know?
I don't have to steal anymore, guys. Okay.
No, but you know what's crazy is I think about that, and when people hear my story, they get sad. But I'm like, nah, that was the best time of my life, because I learned so much that when I talk to my rich friends, they don't get it. And they somewhat envy my street smart.
I was telling my friends this story the other day about how, like, when I was in high school, I went to this one store and like I saw this bag there, right? I thought I could use it as like a side bag for school, and so I stole it. And when I was outside of the store, I looked back and I realized there was a different color that I liked better. So I walked back in, I stole that one, put it inside the bag I had already stole, and then walked out and had both the colors. So every time I tell my friends this, they crack up. But again, like, I'm not encouraging stealing. But
that's what it was. That's what it was.
Yeah, it gives you like a sense of need to survive. How are you gonna get what you want? And I'm not saying resort to stealing.
But it just shows like where we are now. You know, you don't need to steal anymore. All the times that I was a single mom, did you ever feel like you looked for a dad? Did you feel like I wasn't enough and you needed
To be
a
honest,
dad?
I remember distinctly, like, when we were in Canada, I had a conversation with myself, like, do I need to know who my father is? Do I need this relationship with him? And I honestly told myself, no. And then when I turned 20, 21, 22, I realized, like, I survived 21 years
Without
of myself, you know, without this man. Like, why can't I survive 21 more? You know what I mean? Or another 21 years after that, you know? So, you know, I never felt like I needed this fatherly loving. But I do know that, like, it is true, like, family is family and blood really is thicker than water. And, you know, because he's part of my DNA, there's so many traits that I have that he has.
Do you ever feel like you regret anything or that you missed out?
You and Dad weren't there for a lot of parent-teacher conferences. I'll say that. That would be weird. Going to school, having to go alone or without the Ashley. I didn't like that. And just to reiterate, I feel like it's not really like, or okay, maybe it's like sama ng loob, but I feel like it's a lot of mixed feelings that I didn't understand. It's a lot of frustration at where maybe my life was at, or frustration at how I felt parents should be.
Okay, so it's like the vision of how a parent
and
for
it's like,
you.
I do remember like parts in my life where I would envision you a certain way, and then when we would see each other, or like when you would come back from a trip, I would realize that that's a mom I created in my head. That kind of shatters my reality sometimes, but I mean, I wouldn't really say it's sama ng loob. I think it's more just really confused feelings.
Okay,
you
that
know,
you had to deal with.
that I had to deal with like how I thought my parents should be, and realizing I was creating parents in my head, and then when I would actually be with you guys and talk to you guys, that was something that was that I was creating. But I mean, moving forward, what's so awesome is like after everything that's happened, I notice how hard you're trying now, you know, to be that mom that we need. And I wouldn't change that for the world, because whatever we had to go through is what it took for us to get here.
Was there ever a time you feel like I failed you? Did I ever fail you?
I've actually never really had that type of thought. I never thought about like, oh, my mom failed me as a mom. It was more like, my mom's can't just be the normal mom, you know what I mean? Because like the way I envisioned a mom was literally like coming home, I mean, waking up, going downstairs, seeing a mom make breakfast, you know, giving us our allowance, going to school with packed lunches,
buying you everything.
you know, like, waking up early and having to make my own sandwiches. I know that sounds really lame, but that's still made me upset.
Yeah, I get that.
You know, that's
it's like your way of affection. Service.
That still did make me upset.
I do feel like I failed you at certain times of my life, just because I was a young mom. You know, my mom was violent, and I was violent to you, and it took years for me to figure out that's not the way to raise a child. And I know I failed you there. I regret having to learn that late. I mean, that sucks, and that's all I knew, because my mom was violent to me. She used to beat me and was verbally abusive. But once I figured out that was wrong, it took a while to kind of like unlearn that. And once I started bettering myself, I wanted to be opposite of my mom. I wanted to communicate with my children and understand and be that mom that you can talk to. And again, I couldn't make the lunches and all that because I was too busy being depressed. Like, no one knew I was for real depressed, and I couldn't get out of bed, and I was crying all day. You guys would go to school, and I just kept crying at home, and I realized I'm not in the life that I wanted to be in. After all of that and leaving, I wrote in my journal a few things that I remember, like, was my goals were, one was I want to have my kids back, one. Two, I want 500,000 pesos. And I should have said 5 million. And the other was I want a billboard on EDSA. And it's so crazy that after 5 years, I had no idea how I was going to get my family back. But who would have known that the universe, God, would align everything for you to come back and help me reach those goals?
Oh, I remember when we were still in the Philippines, we'd go on a lot of dates.
Mm-hmm.
We would be excited to go on these little dates. Like, we would be our Valentine's date.
Yeah.
Those were really cute. I remember being really excited for those.
Mm.
When we went to Canada, that's when my memory of our relationship starts to get kind of joggy because we didn't really have the best
No,
relationship.
we just wanted. I just wanted to survive.
Yeah,
you know?
that's when we didn't have the best relationship there. I remember you leaving to go to cooking school,
Yeah.
and when you Skyped us,
Yeah.
I remember not having the strength to look at the phone. I think that was the first time I realized that I did want a mom.
Yeah.
When you left Dad and you came to the Philippines, I think that was the time when I realized that I could survive without you.
Yeah.
I just was still angry,
Yeah.
you know. And then when I came back to the Philippines, which is 2 years ago,
Yeah.
it was really rough living together.
Yeah.
There was like a lot of up and downs, because I think it was like all those years and then trying to find mutual ground
Yeah.
all of a sudden. And so there was a lot of feelings of like, I still feel really upset about this,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm happier in a good place, but at the same time it's just like, I don't know what to do with all these feelings.
Yeah. You had like an angry stage when you were
yeah.
growing up, and
Yeah.
I have my
I mean,
temper.
I still have a grumpy side, you know.
Okay, people need to know he needs to be fed all the time, or
Yeah.
else he
Yeah.
has a temper. But we've had fights. I mean, we've had fights, and what were some of the things we used to fight about? What was our biggest fight? Do you remember?
A lot of our fights just stemmed from us like being unhappy, so small things would just
Set us off.
set us off. Just being angry and not understanding why I was
Yeah.
angry.
Yeah.
And wanting my parents to understand it
Yeah.
and kind of lashing out, but you guys also not understanding why.
Yeah.
When we were past that phase, then came like the always bringing up what
The past.
I wish, the past. Wow, I wish you guys raised me, and why
Yeah.
did you guys do this? Why did you guys do that?
Yeah.
You know, why is like, because I had the favorite. Why did I have to be the experimental child? You know, like why? You know, so. Yeah, it definitely had its phases, but
I have to say that, you know, we still have they're not even fights, they're disagreements now. Like, we still have our disagreements, but what I like now is that after I left Dad,
yeah,
that's when I was able to find happiness for myself.
Yeah.
I was able to build my happiness.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, now it's inspiring, but at the moment it wasn't. Like, freaking everyone judged me for leaving you guys.
Yeah.
You know, everyone looked down on me, and
Yeah.
I think what I want to explain to people is that having a perfect family there's no such thing. There's no such thing as a perfect
There's no
family.
such thing.
And you know, I see people stay in relationships for the sake of having this vision
Yeah.
when they're miserable. They're not good moms, they're not good dads, because they're hurting inside.
Yeah.
But society wants them to look perfect, so they stay. And I know that it wasn't popular at our time or within our community to leave, and it was so humiliating
Yeah.
to leave you.
Yeah.
It was so, I was embarrassed and I was in pain. It was the only thing
And
I could do. You know?
I also hope people don't think that like, oh, you have a problem, you just leave your husband or leave
Yeah,
your wife,
not at
right?
all.
You know what I mean? I think after like,
Yeah.
you and Dad were together like
12 years, like around 12 years.
right?
And
Like,
okay, and
after exhausting like all the options,
Yes,
you know,
yes,
it came to
yes.
a point that even your kids wanted you guys
Yeah.
to separate. You know?
Yeah,
So I
okay.
hope nobody out there is like, I'm fighting with my husband, let me just leave him.
Okay, to
Really
clarify, I went through counseling. So mind you, it was like 12 years, okay? Within 7 years, I knew this wasn't right for me. I went through counseling, I read the books, I did the
Yeah.
workshops, and
Yeah.
it wasn't working. I even talked to my husband at that time, what's going on, and nothing was working. It was just getting worse and worse. And then finally, when I left, it just felt like the worst. It was the most painful, hardest decision I ever had to make, because I knew that, one, I'd be judged. You guys would hate me. And three, you know, friends would leave me.
What
which
do you
I
call
did.
it to everybody who's watching? Like, do you, after you separate with Dad, like, I think a lot of people are probably wondering, like, if you could still stay friends with him?
Well, it depends.
Yeah.
I want to stay friends, to be honest. I think we're civil sometimes, but sometimes
Yeah.
it depends who broke up with who. I think he was hurt more. You know what? I really appreciate our closeness. I never had that with my mom. My mom was very secretive. Like, I didn't know her problems. I didn't know her debt. I didn't know her sicknesses. I didn't know anything, you know. And I'm so grateful that we're so open with each other. That's one of my treasures, to be honest. Like, to know that you're honest with me.
A lot of people don't know this as well, but like I feel like such an awkward turtle in showbiz that it really does bring me comfort that you're always there. It feels so weird, honestly, like in my head when I'm thinking and I'm looking around and like I'm the only artista that brings his mom along, but honestly that gives me like a sense of comfort. Whenever I have like an accomplishment, just having my family there to acknowledge and like be proud of me is like that I hold so important and so dear to me as well. That's why it just comes so naturally. But realizing how blessed we were and how that was just part of our journey really taught me a lot about acceptance and forgiveness and seeing like the effort that you put in, that you know I know that you work so hard in your own way, and I know that you are like a full-time mom now, you know, so like there's no way that I can discredit that. So it's been like a wild ride, but I'm so grateful now, you know. I'm super grateful.
We finally have this relationship that I've always wanted. Like, I've always wanted this, and I don't know if it was because I don't know whatever blocked it, but I'm so grateful we have it. And sometimes I feel jealous that I know that one day you're gonna find your own family, and then I think about it, I'm like, but no, I just got this. I would for real feel jealous if you had a relationship.
I don't think I would ever stop spoiling my family, honestly. Like, I think I'm starting to realize that that's just my nature. I'm so blessed that that's something that God instilled in me, or that's something that He gave to you guys that was passed on to me. You know, I'm just like super giving in nature, and despite me being angry or you know, or even maybe spiteful or whatever negative feelings, like I still know that it's my calling to provide for my family. You know, and it brings me so much happiness when I get to do that.
I do appreciate, like, every time there was a Christmas or a birthday, no matter how much money you had, you always had good gifts.
Yeah,
But
I think there's something about like making people feel special and making people feel really grand and important that like I put so much value to that. Maybe that's why I became an actor. You know, it has a lot to do with like making things feel better than life. You know what I mean? Like, I think growing up, like, like having so many feelings of like us not being able to afford this and that, like those moments where like you get something that you really want makes you live that fantasy. You know what I mean? And so I feel like now, like, it's not a fantasy anymore, but like I would never want that to stop for my family.
I'm really proud of the man that you became. And I don't know, I can't take all the credit. I'm just really grateful that the Lord, the universe, allowed for me to have such a kind and loving and generous person to be my son, and I'm just so grateful.
Thank you, Mom.
You know, I just want to take this time to apologize. I know that I missed out on a lot because of my misery, and it wasn't your fault. And I think one of my regrets is that I wish I would have left sooner, in a way, so that I could have been happier sooner, so that I could be this mother that I've always wanted to be for you guys. You know what I mean? Like, it still bothers me because I feel like I wasted time. I wasted time trying to be perfect when I was miserable. And I was a bad mom. I was angry. I wasn't affectionate. I was just this shell trying to function. I missed out. I feel like I missed out on you guys, and I totally regret that. And I wish I could take it back. But I know that it was beneficial for us now. But yeah, I wish I could have done that better, because
Yeah.
you know, it's 12 years of that.
The funny thing about that is, you know, whatever mistakes that you and Dad have made,
Mm.
like I know that you guys tried your best with what you knew. It was just unfortunate that you and Dad were unhappy,
Yeah.
you know, and like it just sucks that that was the situation.
Yeah.
But what I do know is that God is so kind, and he's just so giving, and he gave something in you guys that I think has definitely been passed down with me, because Adriana, like, you know, even though we have like our issues, and like even though we can be stubborn, and you know, even though situations have like made us build a wall, all your kids have such a soft heart.
Yeah.
Because we were raised in an environment where like we talked so much, like I don't know, our core is still family, you know.
Yeah.
I realized that our core is still family. Like when you and me ended up here in the Philippines together, like, and our family was like all in different parts of the world, like
Yeah.
look at us now, like it's still family, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
for some strange turn of events, like we're all living under one roof
It's
again.
crazy.
You
It's
know,
crazy. It's
so
amazing.
yeah, I think, you know, no matter what mistakes you and Dad have made, like, we turned out fine. I'm proud that me and Kazai and Adriana still have that heart to serve God, you know,
Yeah.
and keep that open mind, and,
Yeah.
you know, make room for more. I mean, there's no changing anything.
So I didn't screw you up too much.
I would like to say so, yeah.
I think that's
I think
always.
I'm doing fine.
I think that's always a parent's fear, is like, did I
Yeah.
mess them up so much? You know,
Mhm.
who would have thought that we would get here?
Yeah.
And I think that's so amazing.
You really have to enjoy the process.
Yeah.
You know? You were telling me this. You should explain this.
to enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
I guess I'm always telling you this because I learned from it.
Yeah.
I was poor. I was, you know, abused emotionally and physically. I came from being broke, a single mom,
Yeah.
divorced, you know, and
Yeah.
the great thing is I knew that I needed to go through that pain because I knew something good will come out of it.
Yeah.
I knew that I would be a spokesperson for surviving that. I knew that
Yeah.
every trial I went through will be a testimony
Yeah.
that will be hope for someone else.
Yeah.
Someone else like me, someone who didn't have me.
That's why, despite our image being like these rich colonial people, like
We're
that's
not
why I
rich.
feel like when we are on other talk shows, like people find us so relatable, because we also get where they're coming from.
I'm just so proud of you, honey. We've gone through so much. We've single parent to a nuclear family, I guess,
Yeah.
to a Benetton mixed up family, to broken, and being judged, labeled, not believed in,
Yeah.
and
I wouldn't
we're here.
I wouldn't trade that for the world, that journey that we had to go through, because now I have the mom that I've always envisioned in my head, you know? So yeah, I definitely love our journey.
Thank you, honey. I love you.
I love you too, Mom.
Cheers.
Cheers.
There's no absolute rules to surviving and going through your own battles and struggles. So here at Happy Hour, I want you guys to use this opportunity as a learning to give you hope that we're all struggling and surviving together. If we can do it, you can do it too. I just want to thank Malayan for being our main presenter for today. The food was amazing. The place is beautiful. And I also want to thank Roxy, Durex, and the Red Whistle. Thank you for being part of us today. Thanks for joining us today, and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Happy Hour.
Jones.